A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, we followed a group of ragtag heroes through the galaxy on a quest to overthrow the Empire, find themselves, and feel the Force. Luke, Han, Leia. The original Star Wars, later subtitled Episode 4, A New Hope, centered around setting the stage for a lot more stories to come. Now, we've pretty much come full circle at this point. We know how the Skywalker saga begins, we know how it ends, and we know what happened before. But there was always one crucial chapter in this story that we missed, and refreshingly so, this doesn't tell the tale about the Skywalkers. This is about boots-on-the-ground soldiers, rebels, and terrorists that feel closer to a war movie set in space than a space movie set in space. It's been a year since The Force Awakens put Star Wars back into the limelight. Now it's time for the very first anthology film to prove these spin-offs can stand on their own. This is the Blocked Content review of Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Give yourself to the dark side. It is the only way you can save you.
This story bridges the gap between episodes 3, Revenge of the Sith, and 4, A New Hope. However, it is a lot closer to A New Hope, seeing as it's literally days before the events of that film opens with. The plot centers around a character called Jyn Erso, daughter of the brilliant Galen Erso, who is involved in creating the ominous Death Star. Many years after a couple of tragic events, she finds herself surrounded by rebels who need her knowledge and connection with her father to retrieve the plans of the Death Star, to potentially find a weak spot and end this war. Along the way, she becomes part of the Rogue One, a group compiled of ex-Imperials, morally grey rebels, and a blind monk who claims to feel the Force in a time where pretty much everyone has given up on hope. This serves for a very multicultural and multiracial ensemble cast that feels like something we've never seen before in Star Wars. Seeing all their personalities get enough screen time is a blast. The standout here is Cassian, an extremely loyal communications officer who is loyal to a fault and would do the unthinkable to complete his mission. His sidekick, the Imperial droid K2SO, was reprogrammed by Cassian himself to help out with the ongoing struggle against the Empire. Having an Imperial droid on your side has some advantages. Diego Luna's Cassian has a lot of depth to him, and he plays him very stoic and sometimes anti-heroic. Some sudden jumps in logic are a bit jarring, but having K2SO to deliver the laughs can sometimes forgive the change of hearts. K2SO was a crowd favorite, and even though some jokes didn't quite land and ended up more on the cringe side of things, he caught audiences by surprise. In such a dark and dreary movie, it's nice to have some genuine comedic relief from a droid. Then there's, of course, the aforementioned Jyn Erso, played by award-nominated actress Felicity Jones. Jones brings something new to the table in Star Wars, a woman on a mission. She's skittish, jumps at the chance to attack, and isn't one to shy away from acting on impulse. After seeing a character so frightened, one-dimensional, and destined for greatness as Rey in The Force Awakens, it's nice to have a hero you're actually rooting for, not knowing if she could come out alive in the end. And the supporting cast gets a lot of screen time as well. Donnie Yen's Chirrut made crowds roar with his awesome kung fu influences and the cane battling. On the Imperial side of things, we have Orson Krennic, a baddie dressed in white played by Ben Mendelsohn. He's on his way to get the comeuppance from many years of being ignored, the character, and not getting praise for his full potential. He oversees the construction of the Death Star, a planet-destroying war machine. Krennic's character is full of precise rage, and the way that he steers his troops into battle is a sight to behold. He's just very, very strict. We have to mention a certain Dark Lord of the Sith as well. Darth Vader is in Rogue One. Sparingly, but he is in it. Gareth Edwards, the director, made great use of this iconic villain, and even though James Earl Jones' dialogue was sometimes on the edge of Star Wars Rebels television quality of mediocre, it felt really good to hear him again in this amazing role. There's one scene in particular where Darth Vader is used so well that it will have fans talking for a long time. The film also brings a couple of characters back from the dead, sort of. After a bit of research, quite a lot of characters, even smaller ones, they bring them back due to the magic of CG. Sometimes this could be a bit jarring because it feels like Disney was so confident in the quality of their real-life decoys that they kept pushing full close-ups on us. We're not quite there yet, and it was a bit uncanny valley in the mouth animation department, but it worked. Could have used it a bit better, in framing and composition to hide the imperfections, but it worked. The music by acclaimed composer Michael Giacchino is a bit hit or miss, and I really didn't want to face that music. I hoped that his score would be exciting, memorable, and iconic, but what it ended up being was serviceable and okay. There were some new themes thrown into the mix, like Jin's theme, but starting off new melodies with the first couple of notes completely borrowed from John Williams' greats, like the Force theme, it's just giving us false expectations at that point. New melodies means new melodies. The music could sometimes do the perfect instrumental throwaway to some scenes, and I really like that, especially in the desert planet on the Rule, Jeddah. But overall, the score was a tiny bit disappointing, and one hopes that when the musician has more time to think about and perfect his work, something truly memorable will arise. Of course, he was under immense pressure and only had a few weeks to get it together, so I applaud him for that. It was actually pretty good. It's a Star Wars story film, so it means there is a big change in tone. That has positives, and it also has negatives. The positive is that this film is very adult. It's rated PG, but was sometimes leaning towards the R side of things. I love the way that the film looked. The anamorphic film look did wonders to the realistic, gritty war trench scenes, and I also really adored the use of practical effects again, with lots of alien creatures among the ranks of rebels in the war zones. Not only that, but we finally got some new locations. The Force Awakens gave us, all we knew from the original trilogy, the Snow Planet, the Force Planet, and the Desert Planet. But Rogue One delivers something new on each turn. A canyon planet, a beach paradise, and black coal mine planet. It was exciting to step into a new world. What didn't work was very minor and specific. Non-Star Wars geeks will totally feel lost in a couple of key moments in this movie. There are so many cool nods to characters, dialogue, and moments from the previous films that it almost borders on gratuitous fan service. A first-time viewer will have a very hard time getting this movie, as opposed to, the more accessible Force Awakens, which did that really well. Another big problem that I have with the film is the opening crawl, which is missing. We get a long time ago opening text, but it's not even followed by the big Star Wars logo. It immediately cuts to a scene, and is very jarring and unsatisfying. And after this cold open ends, we get the most ugly word art logo design of Rogue One that I've ever seen in my life. It actually looked worse than the logo on the posters, and it never even said Star Wars anywhere. Was this put together by an intern at the last minute? Totally crazy choice there, but all in all, the callbacks were handled with respect, and even left some doors open for potential future Star Wars story films. There were some tiny hints dropped in there. It was cool to see the old aesthetic again, and this means that we got the exact same set design and stormtroopers from the 1977 film. But director Gareth Edwards has updated that aesthetic massively for a modern audience. As stated before, this feels like a dirty, raw war film, and even though you see flying space lasers everywhere, it sometimes doesn't even feel like Star Wars, which can be a really, really good thing. And as the story closes, it's given you quite the emotional ride, and it becomes clear that going away from the Skywalker episodic films is a very, very bold, but also a very, very good idea. I love this film. I think it dragged a little in the middle section when the crew was out on a reconnaissance mission, and I think some of the more stylistic choices were a bit odd, but it was very, very well acted. The music was from a new composer for the first time, so that felt very refreshing and new. And Darth Vader totally did what he had to do in the film. And actually, this movie had a very great space battle, and I had to mention that because, something we've been missing since the Return of the Jedi was a great space battle. The Force Awakens never gave it to us. We had some awesome lightsaber battles, and in this movie, there really aren't any lightsabers. So we really needed that big space battle, and I'm very happy that they absolutely delivered on that one because it was missing, and you made up for it. You made up for lost time, and I'm very happy. That was such a big battle right there. The film ends on a little word called hope, and I think that sums it up precisely. The franchise is in great hands with Disney. and Gareth Edwards did a tremendous job bringing the first standalone to life in such a unique, gritty way. We hope for a very different Episode 8, which is coming, of course, next year in December. We hope the Han Solo movie is very lighthearted, young, fresh, and comedic, and we hope for the Kenobi film set before Episode 4. That definitely has to happen. Just bring back Ewan McGregor, it'll all be fine. But most of all, we hope for more Star Wars. Blocked Content gives Rogue One, a Star Wars story, an 8.5 out of 10. For more on Star Wars, film reviews, video games, and all more, hit that subscribe button and become a part of our family. I've subscribed. My sister has it. Now you have that power too. Block buddies, see you guys later, and may the Force be with you.